Welcome back. It's not a new day.
It's about 20 minutes later.
More like 10.
But for you, it'll feel like an eternity.
Yes. So, Heather is going to be spearheading this one, where she's got some spooky stuff for us in more detail. So,
listen, I am a product of my environment, and in our environment, we've previously mentioned, we're like roughly Buffalo area. Buffalo people are really, really obsessed with anything local. Like, I've never seen a city with a bigger heart-on for their own culture. So,
I mean, I'm sure there are, because we're like a smaller city, but...
I know, but I just, from what I've seen, it's like, they're so obsessed with our own stuff, and like, I kind of love it, but I wanted to tell some ghost stories about some haunted places in our somewhat general vicinity that you can actually go to.
So she got the
if you want a ghost hunting vlog, let me know.
I will not be in attendance. I will not be in attendance. That is all her, and I won't even edit it. That's all her. So
you won't even edit it.
Hell
I'm
no.
not gonna find anything.
Hell no. I ain't looking at that footage for 8 hours. Are
even
you
if I have an encounter, I guarantee you I would not be able to get that on film.
Even if you did, I don't think you would notice it because of you being neurodivergent. Quite honestly.
There is no limit to what I won't notice. Do we have a recent example?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe when the apartment guys were throwing shit over the balcony and it bumped you in the fucking head. And you went, ah! Like, how did you not hear them?
Listen, I knew they were doing stuff. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna just let them do their thing. I'm gonna slip out the door. I was on my way to work. The second I stepped foot outside, they tossed down a piece of cardboard and it just like bops me.
I thought that was kind of funny.
It was like just a thin thing of cardboard, so it just surprised me more than anything else. But I was like, yeah.
But she's got the VIP hookups for y'all who, if you're planning a trip here, live here, don't live here, know about the area, and you want to go visit these for spooky season, we have the hookup. So, hit us.
I'm going to start with maybe my favorite supposedly haunted local places. Is very close to my heart. I know it as the Hotel Henry. It's currently called, I think, the Hotel Richardson.
Is it the insane asylum?
Yes.
That turned into a hotel? Okay, so
it's on Buffalo State's campus.
Yes. Well, it's across the street. It's not the same campus.
It's on the campus.
No, it's not. It's across
Which
the street.
one of us went to that school?
I've Ubered around that entire block and got lost. It is not on the campus.
When John and I went there, he would park right on that street.
Yeah,
it's
across the street.
And walk to class. It's literally right fucking there. It's like
it's
on the same block.
Yeah, it's here.
There's a road that goes
and then here's the campus.
I consider it part of it. Anyway.
But it's not, though. It's its own separate thing. Girl. It's just right next door, right across the street. You could probably throw a spitball and hit it. But it's this very big, insane asylum.
I gotta see if I have any spooky pictures. I walked by it, like, every day of my life for 4 years. So
there is
it's so cool looking.
There's like an outpatient little place it is technically on the same campus because it is on the same piece of land that this is on, but it's an outpatient substance abuse location where I went to get my Narcan certification, and you had to like pull up, like go in the driveway towards it, and then you turned around to like go to this little building right here, and I was looking at it and I'm like, that looks fucking freaky.
No, it really does. It looks stereotypically haunted, where like it's a really long building and it's got two little bits that jut out, and each end is like closed off, condemned.
Yeah.
The middle bit they
apart.
made into a hotel.
Yeah.
And I am determined to stay in a hotel. I'm not gonna do it alone, but I want to stay in that hotel. Like, it's kind of beautiful, but also it's like, oh, that's the place that's supposed to be haunted? Are we gonna find these Scooby-Doo monsters in here? Like,
Well, to be fair, a lot of the asylums, psych wards, things like that were around in general, the patients were not treated well there
Oh, exactly.
at all. So it's no surprise that those are probably one of the number one most haunted places because of people just being absolutely fucking tortured. So, thankfully there are no such things as a psych ward anymore. Thank God. So we're all safe at that, but that's kind of where I do probably would imagine that people go there and do have stories for sure. Who stay in the hotel. First of all, I was shocked when they made it into a hotel. I'm like, y'all are fucking nuts, but okay. They ain't gonna get my money.
Imagine the tourist trap, though, because
A lot of people do that.
It's like
Around
on
now.
Elmwood, in like literally right
Historic.
across from the art gallery.
Yep.
Not two. Literally, there's two art galleries like right in that immediate vicinity, and it's on a college campus. So if you're visiting a college student or whatever, like. And just the fact of, like, what a tourist trap is so haunted, you know?
Elmwood is pretty historic as well.
Yeah.
So, there's
So,
a lot of
like-
older, nice buildings that would look a little bit freaky, too. But sorry, go ahead. I know I give a lot of background.
So the reason why the hotel was called Hotel Henry and now it's the Hotel Richardson is because the person that designed it was named Henry Hobson Richardson. So, H.H. Richardson. What? Why are you so shocked?
Oh, I was thinking of H.H. Holmes, sorry.
No,
I was
he was
like,
not a serial killer.
Have we checked the secret corridors for dungeons at all
Oh my
lately?
God.
Have we found any heads in the wall? Basically.
But yeah, I mean, you basically explained that how, like, it was a mental...
Sorry.
No, I like that we were having a conversation and it wasn't just one of us talking at the other person.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a psych center, and with the timing being what it was, that building saw some horrors,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's a hotel.
Yeah, they did remodel it. The inside photos of the rooms and the foyer and stuff like that, it looks very beautiful. They kind of, I don't want to say they made it match the building, but they kind of did, where it's still like older type of Victorian style, I believe, right? Where if you were doing like for example, if you were doing like a spooky, almost gothish wedding, you would want to do it at the hotel.
Oh, that would be a hell of a background.
Yeah, so
that
would be the vibe.
I have to see if I can find the picture, but one day I was on campus and it was like foggy,
Mm-hmm.
and just looking across this, I was like, oh my god, it looks so spooky, and like, I need to take a picture.
Yeah.
So I gotta see if I can find that.
I'm sure you can find one on Google too if you can't find it on your phone. There's gotta be.
I want to find that specific image, because like,
Well, if you can.
it was so cool. I was literally, it wasn't even scary. I was just like, this is so fucking awesome right
I
now.
actually love fog,
It was
by
such
the
a
way.
vibe.
Yeah, like it matches, it goes with it,
Yeah.
you know? But it is, and to preface with most insane wards and things like that, I don't even think insane asylum is politically correct, but whatever. I took psychology, so I don't know if that gives me privilege or not to say that, but lobotomies and like pulling shit out of people's noses and electric shock therapy and just basically frying people's brains was so common that it was...
And just being physically violent with the poor patients.
Yeah, well, if someone's having a schizophrenic attack,
Yeah.
they are physically violent with the people who, the nurses and whoever who are trying to calm them down, and you have no protection, so you have to kind of like use physical force and do whatever you can to protect yourself.
Oh no, I'm talking about like there's stories from here that were like
Oh, I totally bet that too.
The people in charge were
Oh,
incredibly
yeah,
violent.
absolutely. Well, that's what I'm saying. If you have a patient that is wildly out of control, wielding a fucking knife at you, you also don't have any protection.
Oh, they were indiscriminate.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, it goes both ways too. You know, like patients were violent. People, like staff members, owners, management was violent. Like, absolutely, just all around bad juju, bad vibes.
Literally, it says, if any man was slow to enter the dining room, he would be knocked down, kicked, and cursed at.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not even talking like, oh, somebody was violent. No, it's like any of them would get physically abused.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of mental disorders that are untreated can lead to very extreme behavior, and on top of being tortured with that behavior, it can exacerbate so much. Yeah. So I feel for both parts. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, you're trying to keep them in line, and like, but that's obviously excessive, and they weren't all, you know, friendly buddies either. But I also feel for the patients too.
The type of people that were in charge. Google the Stanford Prison Experiment, is all I'm gonna say.
Well, that's completely
We're talking
different.
That kind of... No, just anyone in a position of authority, like, absolutely abusing the shit out of it.
Well, yeah. Well, they were... That's completely different because everybody was under the impression of sound mind. And not... It was meant to be an experiment that was to...
I'm just saying, when you put someone in a position of authority over people who, even in that experiment where they're just told to act like they're, like, you know, below them, or they did something wrong, or mentally they're not well, like, they will abuse the shit out of that power.
What year did the prison experiment happen? I can't remember.
I say it was like the 70s.
Right. So if you think about it, discrimination was still high and mighty.
Oh,
not that absolutely. It also isn't today, but if you think about what happens in the world at that time when they do experiments, you're factoring that in too.
Oh yeah, because there were plenty of unethical experiments.
Yeah, I can't remember if they were mixed races that were involved in the experiment.
The fucking craziest shit. The dude that did that experiment. Mm-hmm. I can't remember his name, but
I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember either. Something? Maybe.
I took a psych course in high school. And every week we would watch these videos that would like introduce us to a new concept of whatever and go into shit. Hosted by that guy.
Yeah, he did a lot.
I'm like, what?
I think if I'm
like,
not...
that was the dude that did the fuck...
Well, honestly, it wasn't... He didn't think it would
I know
go
he
that
wasn't
far.
expecting that, but...
So,
oh, that was that guy.
So if you're not privy to this...
I want to watch an episode where he's talking about that and being like, so I fucked up?
Well, okay, psychology has been always rooted in...
Sorry, this started as a ghost episode, now we're just like...
Sorry.
No,
it's my bread and butter.
It's good though, we're connecting, you know, the train is going to a different station, but like in a good way.
Yeah.
Continue.
Usually not what happens. This is a rare occasion.
Continue.
So... The Stanford Prison Experiment was basically this scientist. Do you want to look up his name?
Yeah, it's gonna drive me nuts.
Yeah, and look up
Did it start with a Z?
I don't know. Look it up and then see what other experiments he did, because I'm also curious too. Because there's one in my brain that I'm thinking of, but I can't remember if he did it or not. But anyway, while she's doing that, Stanford Prison Experiment. Basically, he took a group of people. I think they were all men, and
Phillips and Bardo.
Phillips and Bardo.
Okay. It was 1971.
71. Okay. Prime civil rights movement, I believe, right?
That
right
would be
after
like
it?
65. It was
right after it. Okay. So
like,
I can't...
We're talking like Vietnam, like smack in the middle of Vietnam.
Right. So, anyway, I can't remember if they were mixed races, men or women. I want to say they were all men. I think predominantly white, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Google it for yourself. It's pretty common knowledge. I just can't remember. So he took this group of people and he said, hey, we're going to put you in a prison, and half of you are going to act like guards and half of you are going to act like prisoners.
I'm looking at, there's like a website about it.
Yes.
prisonexperiment.org, and this was even shorter than I thought it was. It was only 6 days.
That's how out of what
Damn.
okay, you know how long it takes someone to go mentally insane without sound or seeing a person?
Probably a matter of days.
48 hours, I believe.
Yeah, that's why
That's why in prison,
solitary is really
they have to have some type of noise around them, where, you know, yes, scary, you can hear things and you can't see things and you have minimal person interaction, but people do absolutely go insane. But this was only a short amount of time, like you said, 6 days, and the amount of, there's actually a movie about it where you can watch it, and it's so crazy that they were almost killing each other, and like verbally, mentally, racially, whatever type of abuse was going on. They had cameras viewing all of this everywhere in the prison, and they had to step in and be like, guys, it's an experiment. You're not real guards. You're not real prisoners. You're free to go.
It didn't even last for half of the time they planned it to.
It was supposed to be like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and
that's what I said.
he got the information he needed, but when you're put into a character, hang on. When you're put,
She does this all the time.
When you're put into a character so intense where you have, like, you're in the same surrounding, you have the same rules.
These were method actors.
Well, not even...
They weren't acting, I know.
Well, yeah, they were trying to be as authentically that guard or that prisoner, and they were acting as such so well that it felt like they were actually in prison, and they started making up stuff about what they did or whatever. That's how far it went, where when they got out, they truly believed that they were a prisoner, they were a guard. It was so insane. Gaslighting themselves, basically. Sorry. I wanted to get that thought out. My bad.
I was laughing because on this website there's a quote from Philip Zimbardo where he's like, yeah, the prisoners became depressed and showed signs of extreme stress. That's the understatement of the year. Like, yeah, they were depressed because they were being abused.
Well, yeah.
Like, anyone would be stressed and depressed being abused.
Well, if you think
especially
about
when you think
these are normal people.
Like, you're going into that knowing that it's an experiment, and then all of a sudden the people who you think aren't going to hurt you start hurting you.
Yeah.
That's like,
they didn't really have much rules to it either, from my understanding. Like, they said just, you know, be a guard, don't, you know, kill each other, basically, was, I think, the only rule. But yeah, I feel so bad for this guy, like, he must have had so much remorse, but he found out that's pretty big information for the time. Yeah. It's pretty big information for the time in the psychology world that it was that, like, short of a time, but that impactful of an experiment where they actually had to stop it.
Just to put into perspective how recent this was, both of my parents were a year old.
Yeah.
When this happened.
Yeah. What other experiments did he do? Did you find?
Oh, I googled the experiment, not the dude.
Also, Mina is purring right next to Heather.
Mm-hmm.
She loves to lay on that side of the couch.
She sat and curled up next to me.
I know.
He looks exactly how I remember.
Yeah. I don't remember what he looks like.
He's 91.
Oh, dang. Look at you, man.
But yeah, he's just always had that, like, that look to him.
Most psychologists do. Okay.
You might recognize some of the things on there. I don't know if I would. I remember there was...
Oh, okay. So there's this thing called the Lucifer effect. So it's basically...
That sounds fun.
It was written in response to his findings. This is from Wikipedia, by the way, so take it as with a grain of salt.
Research queens.
Findings from the Stanford Prison Experiment believes that personality characteristics could play a role in how violent or submissive actions are manifested. He says that humans cannot be defined as good or evil because we have the ability to act as both, especially according to the situation.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting for the time frame. It was argued that it was not the prison guards and interrogators that were at fault for the physical and mental abuse of detainees, but the Bush administration policies themselves. Because he did that so the full sentence is, examples include the events that occurred at the Abu Ghraib detention center, in which the defense team, including Gary Myers, argued that it was not the prison guards and interrogators that were at fault for physical and mental abuse of detainees, but the Bush administration policies themselves.
I thought we were talking about with the background of the Stanford prison.
That's
my
why
bad.
he did
My
it.
bad.
That's why he did that experiment, was because of that. Because he saw in that Abu Ghraib detention center what was happening.
He did this because of the Stanford one?
Bush
was not a president.
Right. So
for like at least... Okay, Bush.
Oh, wait.
Bush.
Okay, hang on.
The first Bush was a vice president under...
Okay, I mixed that up. This article is just explaining examples of how it is. Sorry. I was thinking examples of why he started the experiment. My bad. But good, according to Zimbardo, good people can be induced, seduced, and initiated into behaving in evil ways. They can also be led to act in irrational, stupid, self-destructive, antisocial, and mindless ways when they are immersed in total situations that impact human nature in ways that challenge our sense of the stability and consistency of individual personality, character, and morality. That was a hell of a fucking quote. But yeah. There are 7 social processes that grease the slippery slope of evil. Okay. Mindlessly taking the small first step, dehumanization of others, de-individualization of self, anonymity. So in the experiment, they ended up giving them numbers instead of names. So you're number 42, you're number 43. Diffusion of personal responsibility, blind obedience to authority, uncritical conformity to group norms, passive tolerance of evil through inaction, or indifference. Let's see.
Can we go back to the ghost stories?
Yeah, I just want to see what other...
That's what this started as.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, I think...
What's his name? Philip Zimbardo?
Yes. Just how it sounds.
Philip Zimbardo. Other experiments.
This cat is purring
So loud.
I love this.
He may have only done that one from what I can find, but
I want to see what
I'm
the
curious.
video series that we watched was.
There was a movie that was made about it. It's like an hour and a half movie. I think it's called just The Experiment. I think I watched it like 4 or 5 years ago on Netflix with my ex.
Discovering Psychology.
What?
The program that he hosted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
But
I just
he
remember
did a
being
lot
like,
just
oh
with
my
that.
god, that was the Stanford prison guy.
Yeah.
He was teaching us all this shit.
Yeah. Sorry on the side tangent of psychology,
No, that was
ladies and
funny.
gentlemen, but I hope that you learned something from Psych 101. But anyway, back to it.
And now for the anticlimactic finish of the century. The ghost experiences that are reported to happen at the Hotel Henry.
Okay.
Guests have reported seeing flickering lights, objects moving on their own, as well as cold spots throughout, especially in the hallways and staircases that lead directly nowhere. Even more chilling are the voices that can be heard crying for help. So
That would freak me out.
your average haunting.
Yeah.
So that's
Still would scare the shit out of me.
that's the Hotel Henry.
Okay.
Next is, I mentioned this in the last one, but Van Horn Mansion. I've been there more than once. I actually went on like a ghost hunting tour there once with my mom and a friend of mine.
Yeah,
or a friend of hers.
That's what you were
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, but this super rich family called the Van Horns. They built this mansion, and the son of the person that built it, he married this girl Melinda, and she died in childbirth. She was literally 21.
Oh.
So she was like, I look at that and I'm like, you were a baby. You have no business having a baby. You were a baby.
At that point, I'm assuming this is what, 1900s?
Oh, yes.
21 is like 40 at that rate. Quite
Yeah,
honestly.
she was buried on January 13th, 1837.
Poor girl.
So,
Oh,
10 days after her 21st birthday.
Oh.
Yeah.
No club for her.
And the family had their graveyard on the property. This comes into play.
Naturally, as one does.
So a couple generations later, or a couple different owners later, at some point, let me find where it was. I believe this was sometime in the late 40s or the early 50s. The new owner decided to remove the bodies from the property and take them to a cemetery. And they got most of them. Unfortunately, Melinda's headstone was just like completely cracked. And I think they missed her entirely because the headstone had just like been buried basically.
Oh, like maybe it fell over or something.
So she and her headstone are still on the property. So here's a picture. You can see her headstone was like cracked in half. Like if memory serves, they had to like unbury her headstone because it like fell over and just got like you know over time or whatever.
Carry on.
So the mansion would see large spans of time with no occupants, falling into disrepair and being repeatedly vandalized. Rumors began of spirits being seen on the grounds and inside the building. Passersby swore they saw the ghost of Melinda wandering around the property. She's like the main ghost there. Like, that's her house. Even though she was probably there for like a year. Like, that's... She's kind of like the queen of that property for the last 150 odd years.
Good for her. She deserves it.
Like, every sighting is like Melinda, basically.
Honestly, now that I'm pregnant, I'm so scared of childbirth for like complications that come with it. So dying in childbirth is like a very real scare. It's terrifying.
It is, but I would like to take the time to remind you that we have good modern medicine and you are going to be in a safe facility.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
for sure.
It's
things still could happen in a matter of seconds, though. That's the only thing.
It is a lot better than it could have been.
Oh yeah, I could just be raw dog in childbirth, and I would probably scream my head off.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get that epi and carry on and hope to God I'm okay. But sorry, continue. So Melinda, it's her house.
Yeah.
She deserves it.
Cars have skidded to avoid hitting a young girl running from the mansion who later vanishes. They think it's Melinda. Even when the house had residents, the hauntings would remain. People have seen Melinda at the top and bottom of the stairway, dressed in blue or appearing in a white mist. I like the outfit change. There are
Normally that
footsteps.
doesn't happen.
Well, not like outfit, but like different forms, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, you know, if it's like super...
Depends how much effort she's feeling up to putting in at the moment, I think.
Yeah.
Because, like, sometimes you want to just, like, you know, put your best foot forward, and then other times you're like, I'm here, but at what cost?
Yeah, what I'm thinking with that is maybe, like, it's super faint, so it looks all white, but maybe the dress that she died in or something was blue, and on, like, a really, really clear image of her, it could be blue. But if it's super faint, it's probably white, because I've that's the first where, like, wearing different, for, like, a ghost wearing different attire. Like, that normally doesn't happen. It's usually whatever they either wore typically. Or
you know I was
photographed
making a
it.
joke, right?
Yeah, but I'm like, with the blue or white, I wanted to clarify.
No, it was either a blue dress or appearing in a white mist.
Right, which is, like, faint.
Yeah.
Like a faint image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're talking, like, slightly different forms.
Yeah.
And not... It's not like she's, like, picking a different dress for every day.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, that's... Huh. Interesting. Alright, carry on.
Historical Society members have often seen Melinda fully dressed in the mansion. There's also the smell of untraceable lilac perfume in certain parts of the house. I like lilacs.
I don't.
So,
Glad she does.
they found her grave. They only found it in 1992.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And
Yeah, they totally missed her.
Yeah, and she was moved to a slightly different spot on the property, but she's still on the property.
That's weird to me. Why wouldn't you just leave her there? Like, you're gonna dig up someone and then rebury them again? Like, I'd be like, listen, dog, just leave me here.
Well, because they turned it into, like, a historical place and a place to visit, I think they wanted to, like, maybe do right by her and, like, you know, have, like, a nice setup and, like,
Yeah, but you don't have
properly bury her.
to, you don't have to, you know,
Maybe
move
she was-
someone to do that. you
Maybe
know?
it was a bad location.
It could have been. Like, if it was in the front yard, you know, maybe not. But, you know, historical things, typically, they're like, here lies Paul Revere. Whatever. You know, like, and they'll do something around it, you know, instead of, like, moving them. That's weird. Sorry. But carry on. I got a lot of 2 cents today, apparently.
In the attic, the maid's bedroom door is closed by itself. The door to the attic is also slammed as well. Other claims include whistling, which is said to be done by the servant who worked out in the carriage house, and also the smell of tobacco in the men's smoking room on the 2nd floor when no one is there. There's been a shadow figure in the attic. There's other figures going on. There was a business that once owned the place, and it says their attempts to build offices continually failed due to hauntings. Part of the reason they chose to donate the building.
Yeah, fuck that. Don't bring that shit over here, my guy.
So, apparently ghost sightings are not as common as they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say it's because the hauntings kind of stopped or slowed down when Melinda was moved. So we think that maybe she's happy with that.
Could be. Maybe that's what she wanted. To, like, a more better area.
And you figure it's not in disrepair anymore. It's well maintained.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like,
Maybe she
it's
was
a
upset.
historical place.
Upset that it wasn't, like, it was changing and things like that. If it stays the same, then they're usually pretty happy with that, you know?
There was definitely an era of, like, this is chaos. Like, I have some unfinished business, and now the house is, like, falling apart. Like, there were people that lived in it at some point, but it was kind of, like, on and off.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if you take into consideration her headstone being cracked, maybe that made her upset. And the constant in and out of people maneuvering things and, you know, disrupting the house in general, maybe that made her more agitated. And then once they fixed her up and then made the house kind of what it should be or used to be and kept it the same, maybe that made her really happy.
Mm-hmm.
I hope so. Good for you, Melinda.
But yeah, I always got good vibes from Melinda. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because, like, we're both in our 20s. You know, it's just like, I see you, girl. I see you. I'm with you. She's just there, you know?
Yeah, I kind of do feel
That
for her
poor
a little
woman.
bit.
The
'Cause,
more I
like,
learn about her, I'm like, oh my god.
Because, like,
You didn't get to
childhood-
experience life, and now you're just stuck on this property.
Well, people used to die when they were, like, 35 back then.
Yeah, but Like,
So, like, technically her life was half
she
over.
just turned 21 though.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane to me.
But people were also having kids when they were, like, fucking 17.
I know.
Alright, was that your last one?
No, I got
Okay.
2 more.
Okay.
The next place I want to talk about is called the Iron Island Museum. I have not been here, but I want to.
Also, where was, the place before, the mansion that we just talked about? Where is it? We can cut this part.
The Van Horn Mansion?
Yeah.
It's on the way to Olcott. So it's like if you're
North,
headed up toward
okay.
the lake, yeah.
I see.
So if you want to visit Lake Ontario, maybe don't go for a swim there because it's a little bit nasty and definitely polluted. But
Both of all
you
the
know,
Great Lakes.
Olcott Beach is kind of cute. They got like little shops and shit, but it's not too far from there. It's like 10-15 minutes down the road.
Gotcha. And where is this next one that you're talking about?
It's in Buffalo. It says it's on Lovejoy Street. I don't know.
What is it called again?
Iron Island Museum.
Okay, I probably drove by it before. I've been up and down Lovejoy.
So it started off as a church,
Mm-hmm.
and it briefly closed in the 40s. It was abandoned for a little bit, and then in the late 50s, a funeral director took over it and used it
Nice.
as a funeral home.
That's one way to get some spooky shit.
Oh yeah, like from starting as a church already is like
Church is
probably
probably
gonna be
freaking out.
ghosts. I don't get freaked out by them. I just get a sense of like I shouldn't be here. Get me out.
I feel like I'm
Just intense boredom.
I feel like I'm just disturbing people. Where like they're I don't know, maybe I just
Church
always...
people disturb me. Because, like, some of them are kind of culty. Some of them are normal, but some of them are like,
Yeah.
you know, like, I love Jesus. And, you know, like, there's a line that I think a lot of them maybe don't realize that they've
Yes.
passed on the second side of, but
Yeah. Some, like, there's the extreme people, and then there's, like, the normal people. And then there's...
sorry.
There's just a lot of, like... I feel like I'm disturbing the peace when I go into a church. Like, there was something bad that happened there. In any church, I feel like. No matter if it's, like, new or not, like, it just feels like because, like, if you think about it, most people have their services at a church.
Like funeral services?
Yeah. So I feel like I'm just always disturbing something.
That's actually what I was going to mention. Because, like, every time I've been to a funeral at a church, the thing that pisses me off to no end is that they'll make it all, like, Jesus-y. And they'll make it, like, all about the religion. And it's like, no, it's about the fact that somebody died.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to do right by them. And, you know, have a few respectful words and share some memories. Fuck off with the Jesus shit. Like,
I could see if, like, that person was
these
very
people
religious.
lost a loved one. Like, this is not about you, you know?
Well, if the person who died was religious, then
Yeah.
I just fixed it.
Sorry.
If the person who died was religious, then I think it's okay because that's what they would have wanted, and that's doing right by them. But if they weren't religious,
if
I'd
they're
be
your
like,
everyday
hell
average
no.
person, then it's like,
yeah, it'll throw you for a loop. I kind of just ignore it and
it
like.
shouldn't be about that. It should
Yeah.
be about the person.
But if that's what the person wanted, then we all kind of got
So then the
something,
person
yeah.
should have specified that.
Yeah, but
Sorry, that was a
other
tangent.
than that,
Anyway, Iron Island Museum, it was a church and a funeral home.
mm-hmm.
And then in 2000, this is a semi-familiar name, Anthony Amagon, who owned it. Yeah.
I love that name for
Yeah.
a fucking funeral home.
Amagon? Every time I see one of those, I think about that. I don't know how far spread out the Amazon funeral homes are.
Oh, pretty
but-
far. They go all the way
Okay.
down towards like South Towns and everything, and they're all the way up in the North Towns too.
Yeah.
So it's so funny.
It feels ironic.
Because the one day I was in the car with my mom, right? I was in maybe like high school or something. She was taking me somewhere, or we were both going somewhere, and I was like, we were passing one, and it was like dead quiet, you know, not awkward, but just kind of chilling.
Dead quiet.
And I was like, hey Ma. She's like, what? And I was like, am I gone? And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, am I gone? And she's like, are you talking about the funeral? And I'm like, yeah, I thought it was funny. And I was like, they have no other profession than to be a funeral home. That's your only, like, with a name like that, Jesus.
It
You
is
know, it's
literally
perfect.
spelled, am I gone?
Yep, just all smushed together, no spaces.
But yeah, he donated the building to the Iron Island Preservation Society of Lovejoy, which transformed it into a museum.
Nice.
And the Preservation Society members discovered that some nonsense was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently several paranormal groups came in to investigate the property. Let's see. So when the Preservation Society took over, they began restoring and renovating the building while collecting items for the museum. And while they were doing that, they found 24 unclaimed cremations left from the basement. And as to nobody's surprise, there's a lot of activity in the basement, including
sure.
shadow figures. Oh my god, Chip Coffey! He came to do a reading at the museum.
I don't know who that is.
A very strange man.
Okay.
Apparently he's from Elmira. No, he does like a lot of paranormal, like, medium stuff and like shows and shit.
Carry on.
He's funny. He came to do a reading at the museum and he gave a name, Edgar Zernicke. After research was done into the name, one of the unclaimed containers was found to have the remains of an Edgar Zernicke, a former U.S. Marine. And apparently this dude likes to spend time in the attic where footsteps and disembodied voices can be heard.
Okay.
And then another ghost is a 7-year-old boy named Tommy. He unfortunately was ill, passed away, and his wake was held at that funeral home. And he's sometimes seen and heard in a room called the Children's Room, where employees have laid out toys for him to play with. Isn't that precious?
That is kind of cool when they do that, when they kind of like cater to what the
Sweet.
ghosties want.
One of the first EVPs from the museum was recorded in the Children's Room. The voice of a little boy saying boat was recorded when asked about the model boat in the same room.
Oh,
That's cute.
still not doing it.
On numerous occasions, eyewitnesses have returned to the room to find a toy has been moved when nobody else had entered the room. It's now called the Children's Room due to the belief that multiple spirits haunt the room. The museum also has a military room where the sound of heavy footsteps and EVPs that sound like mortar and gunfire has been recorded. So,
Interesting.
pretty active place.
Yeah.
I want to go there. You don't have to come with,
Oh, I'm not.
but I am intrigued to see
I
it as a
probably
place.
drove by it half a dozen times though.
Probably.
But
So,
last one.
last one. You're gonna get a kick out of this. No, you're not.
Is it Pigman?
Yes, it's Pigman. We had such an intense debate about Pigman.
Okay, so let me tell my version first.
And then
So-
I'll give the facts.
Yes. So I grew up. Okay. I moved.
You don't have to dox yourself.
halfway through. So I moved to this area where Pigman is when I was in middle school and high school.
Supposedly. Allegedly. In
What?
Minecraft.
In Minecraft?
Allegedly.
What do you mean?
It's a joke that people on the internet will...
Oh, yeah.
You know how, like, they'll say allegedly to cover their asses? They'll,
Well,
like...
yeah, I don't have to cover my ass here.
I know.
For what? It's
I
a
mean,
fact that I moved
it's
there.
it's not like a legal covering your ass. It's like, was the pigman actually a real thing?
Anyway, so I moved to this area roughly where like it was not far from my high school, pretty much. And the story that was told to me by my stepdad and like my friends when I was in 6th, 7th, 8th grade when I first moved there was there's this road and there's a train trestle that goes across like halfway through the road. So the road's like this, and about halfway down there's a train trestle, and there's like it's a very woodsy kind of area. Like I grew up at the creek in the middle of the woods basically. And we used to, it was told to me that there was a train crash that happened on that train trestle, and it was like a very narrow type of train track where it was like elevated up on earth, and it was only one way this way, one way that way, or it might just be one way, but it was very, very narrow. There wasn't room to like get off or anything like that. And it fell off, and this guy was on the train, and he either smushed his face or in the crash or burned his face or something like that to do like some type of cosmetic issue.
There's a reason why the story isn't straight.
Well, that's what was told to me.
I know you're just relaying what you were told,
urban legends, how they go down, and telephone is kind of whatever.
I researched the shit out of this to
Okay,
debunk
anyway, she wasn't trying to debunk.
I wanted the actual story.
Right.
And then I was like, oh my god, the actual story is like so much different than we were told. And I'm like, this is wrong. People are lying about this dude, you know?
We're not lying. It's just incorrect information. But anyway, let me finish.
Yeah,
So then this guy was like, carry on. He actually lived on the road, had a house, tried to go through some like normalcy of life, and then people were making fun of him, calling him Pigman and da-da-da-da-da-da, and like starting rumors about him. So then, I can't remember if it was told to me if he had like a wife or not, but I think he ended up being a butcher, or he was friends with a butcher or something like that. And this group of high school kids or just school kids would go down the road and just like torment his house. And he wouldn't really come out in the day anymore. So at night, he would butcher pigs and put them on stakes outside of his house.
The heads
of pigs, yes. Because they were calling him Pigman. So that kind of also fed into it too. To try to like deter the kids from coming on his property. And the kids saw it, freaked out, and they ran away. And then I guess a different group of kids, or maybe later on these same kids, came back, started fucking with him again a little bit later, and then supposedly he ended up killing them and putting their heads on the stakes as like a point to make. Like I said, this is what was told to me in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade by the locals. So then, I guess he passed away of some time, I don't know of what, but if you go under that train trestle, that little tunnel on the road, and turn your lights off, and like either flash your lights and then turn them off, or something like that, and just park under there, but you have to have your lights off. You'll like see him
every
or
part
hear
of your
something.
story is like, it's either this or that or this.
Well, I haven't heard it in so long. But I'm going straight off of memory from more than 10 years ago, okay? You turn your lights off and you hear like pig squeals or something of that nature, where it's like indicative of him. So, or like train sounds, because that's not an active train track anymore. But that's what was told to me, and it's a story that like I take very much pride in, and I grew up on that. So I agree that her facts are correct. I'm all about the facts, but I still like the
She's like, but the story.
Yeah, because it was like part of my childhood growing up hearing that, and like, oh, don't go down Pigman Road if you're bad. I'll take you down to Pigman Road and drop you off at night. Like, that was the threat.
There is still a genuine like tragic history there.
Oh God, yeah.
So the train wreck part of it was an actual thing, and it's called the Angola Horror
Horror.
because it was that bad.
Yeah.
This happened in December of 1867. The train derailed at the bridge, and it fell off and caught on fire. I believe that's because of like
the engine.
yeah, it was like coal burning
Yeah.
in there. So, ton of people were trapped, just burning to death. And even if people tried to help, they really couldn't do much,
Yeah.
you know, because like you can't really enter a burning train car, you know.
Yeah. Especially with like
So-
the cars being locked and everything, and it just kind of spreads.
So, 49 people died.
Mm-hmm.
It was apparently horrific, and at the time, it was one of the deadliest train wrecks in American history. So I don't doubt that this place is really, really haunted.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the pigman part of it, that is where the history doesn't match up with like the urban legend.
Mm-hmm. Which is completely fine. I'm completely okay with it.
I found some videos of people who did like a lot of research to the point where they found this fellow's name, and I cannot remember it for the life of me, but
Was it Edgar something?
I don't think so.
Anyway,
they-
we'll find it and put it up.
This guy was, I believe he had some kind of a birth defect
Mm-hmm.
where like just physically he looked different, and he obviously didn't really go outside very much because this was the
1800s.
no, I think it was like sometime in the 1900s.
Like very early 1900s.
Yeah, so it was
then.
the 50s and the 60s.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I thought it was way earlier than that.
People were shit to each other even not that long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, we still kind of are, but I
So
I do believe the pig thing is true, but really it's because they didn't want to be harassed.
yeah,
Like, people were just like,
I do know he did put
Yeah,
pig
and
heads
he
on
was
his
like-
lawn for sure.
Yeah.
The putting the kids' heads on there, little
That
unsure
was
about
not
that.
true.
Yeah.
he was not a murderer. He was a butcher that just was really, like, obviously traumatized from just growing up in a shitty time, in a shitty situation,
Mm-hmm.
and for good reason didn't want to be around people. So he was like, I know what'll get him away from me.
Well, I believe people were calling him Pigman, and that's why he put pig heads on his lawn. Because the defect was like it was somewhere in the center of his face where his nose was, and like his lip was up a little bit.
Let me see if I can find a picture, because I think there was a picture of
There
the
was. Yeah, it was very. I think it was one of the only ones that I found. It was on one website.
Yeah,
Um,
we found a picture and it was like really
But-
blurry.
I guess. Well, we'll have to see if we'll put it up because I believe the person who wrote the article that I found it on the family didn't want
Yeah.
his face out there.
I'm not gonna put it in the video, but if I can find it, I want to look at it and be like, is that the reason, basically?
Yeah, I do remember
Just
it
like
was
look at the guy and be
something with his nose like right here.
like, definitely had a facial
And,
deformity.
and it was like lifted up a little, like you know how pig snout is like lifted up like that. It was kind of like that, where it did look like, you know, a human with like a pig face almost. So we'll pay respect to the family and not put the photo up. But if you do find an article when researching on your own and you do find it, that's probably the photo.
Oh, and the guy did live on that road
Mm-hmm.
somewhere,
I don't know if the
but
house
he
is
was
still
not a serial
there.
killer.
I don't know if the house is still there or where he lived on the road. I just know he lived on the road. I couldn't tell you. Oh, I don't even know what the road is. Honestly, I've always just called it Pigman. I don't go that far into Angola to know, for me to pass by it pretty frequently. I just know it exists and I don't go over there. I want to say it's Her Road, Herr, but it's like a certain part because her, like, it goes, like, there's the main street that goes this way, and
I
then
thought it was on Holland Road.
yes, you're right, it's Holland. My bad. I know it started with an H, but they go kind of on either side. So there's like the lake side, and then there's the school side of the streets. So you'll have Holland Road that goes from here like all the way across, I believe. But I don't go down that far, so.
Okay, I found the article of like the real story, and there are no pictures, and because it says photo removed at family's request.
Fair.
But we got the details now.
Okay.
So, April 17th, 1913, William Derricks is born.
Aw,
That's our pig man.
William. Sup, bud?
He was said to have a body of normal proportions, but a swine-like split nose and cleft lip.
I knew it.
They're not sure if it was because his mother was inbred or his dad did some fucked up shit. Like, sometimes shit just happens. Like, there's not...
I mean, the cleft lip, yes.
There's not necessarily a curse, but...
Cleft lip is genetic, but it could be if there is a record of incest.
Gotcha.
That's why they lift up for a second. Because, you can't have a blanket on here with others sitting up here.
So because this was 1913, they kept a pretty secluded life. They didn't...
You're like...
Because this was 1913, they pretty much kept him at home because they knew if they took him out and about, people would be like, what the fuck is wrong with your child?
He does the picture that I briefly saw or could put together was very abrupt, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't want to say scary because, you can't really control it, but it was very, like, if you saw that, you'd be a little like, oh, okay.
As William grew older, he befriended a butcher nearby. The reference to the pigman being a butcher may have come from this era of his life, although he was more of an assistant butcher. And from a few interviews with people directly linked to him, he wasn't all that good at cutting. But he worked more in the cleanup afterwards.
Nice.
And they had an actual photo, but it's been removed out of respect.
Yeah.
For a time, when he was in his 20s or 30s, apparently he did some sideshow work with P.T. Barnum and Ripley's.
I used to love their circuses. Though that was the only circus I would go to when I was little.
Eventually he came back home and settled back on Holland Road, which is where the bridge is.
Did you know that circuses were actually for people who had defects and really insane body types and things like that?
Well, yeah. I know the history of that.
I watched a whole Dark History episode on it.
American Horror Story.
Well, no, watch the Bailey Sarian Dark History episode on circuses. It is so messed up. So messed up. But sorry, continue.
So, next to William's property, there was a sanitation area, a garbage transfer and landfill that was right by his house. So he got a job there as a night watchman and a morning gatekeeper. Living adjacent to the property, William just needed to do bi-hourly walks around the area to make sure no trespasser or illegal dumpers came by. And then every morning at 6 a.m. sharp, open up the gates for the daily trucks to arrive, as well as for his daytime counterpart to arrive. It was at this time period the legend really begins, where history and fact begins to blur with myth, fiction, and legend. Knowing the history to this point is important. So much so that at this time, 1947, 1948, as the record is not 100%, William Derricks got married to his cousin.
I was questioning if he had kids and that's the family that's like removing the photos, and if he did have children. I don't know if it's gonna say, but I'm shocked. I thought he was a single dude.
Her name was Mildred. They apparently began collecting all sorts of bizarre items on their property and in their home. William also cares for some very bizarre creatures, which he adopts from the Barnum and Ripley shows. So, like, weird-ass pets.
I did not know all that. I did not know all that. That's news to me.
They became what today would be considered hoarders, collecting everything and throwing nothing out. And because he worked at a dump, he had ample opportunity to look for shit and collect more. He began to store and hide items throughout his property, many of which can still be stumbled upon today.
Really?
And there's a picture of the house. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I don't know if it's the same house. We'll have to find out. We'll do some Google mapping.
Only remnants of the foundation, the well, and the original fireplace can be found today.
Yeah, they're not going to dig up a well.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's right next to the train track, and it's like an abandoned property where it's like overgrown and like it's you can see like the stump of like the fireplace or whatever maybe.
In order to keep people off his property and to protect his stuff, because he was a hoarder, William would do some very strange and outright things, one being putting pig heads on sticks along the driveway to his house. Probably another reason for the name Pigman.
Listen, I'm not fucking with a butcher, that's for damn sure.
So this is about the dump that he worked at. Many people of the time can remember the man with the hood who talked with marbles in his mouth and who would direct you to where you could dump your trash depending on what you had. Then he would rush you away as soon as you were offloaded, for it was going to be him who had the first crack at anything that may be of value with every load.
Oh my god, that's too funny. Jesus, dude.
Like, the marbles in his mouth thing, it's like, he
Well, with
can't
a
help
cleft
it.
lip,
His mouth
yeah.
wasn't formed properly.
I'm thinking he had a hood, like, you know, maybe pulled down over where, like, they couldn't see his face.
Yeah, he was probably self-conscious.
Like, I thought it was, like, earlier in the 1900s where he could be, like, you know, the headless horseman type of deal. That would have been pretty dope.
He had a son, William Jr., and reportedly had twin daughters, although no birth certificate has ever been found to be filed for the daughters.
They probably died.
His wife died November 22nd of 1966, so this is somewhat recent.
I didn't know it was that soon.
She was reportedly buried illegally in an unmarked grave on the family plot. Various stone fragments, similar to granite-type cemetery stone, has been found on the site.
I'm wondering, did it say how she died?
No.
Or how he died?
But then it says that after her death, the kids were supposedly sent to live with family, and William continued to live there alone. He became more of a recluse. Literally every single photo of this man has just been removed.
I get it.
I know. Yeah, it's during the late 60s and early 70s that locals really started to know the area as Pigman Road. And the legend of the Pigman and his presence really came to light.
That's so interesting.
And then the town dump closed where he worked. And
What was his last name again?
Derrick's.
Dericks?
No, it's like... Why, do you know any Derricks?
That area is so small that you can ask someone what their last name is or their mom's maiden name, and you would probably know to go to school with them. Because, like, my stepdad was born in 68, I think. So I'm like, did he, like, people in the area stay in the area? That's why I'm like, did he know, like, his son or, like, his son's kids or something like that? I don't know.
If the kids were sent to live with family, that probably not.
Yeah, but usually family wasn't too far away, usually. Now I'm very curious.
Word of mouth was that they were sent to live with a relative in Pennsylvania, visiting on special holidays and birthdays.
Oh, okay. Alright, so probably not. That's crazy.
Apparently, William Jr. was sent to Father Baker's.
No! Oh my god. Father Baker's like the worst.
Tell me about
That
Tell
was
me about it,
also a
actually.
threat. Like, if you didn't behave, you were either
Oh,
going to
that's
Pigman
right,
Road or
yeah.
Father Baker.
Yeah.
Like, they don't fuck around over there. Like, that's crazy. I think Father Baker's like pretty huge now. They have like a bunch of facilities, but it's like a church, and then they have like an orphanage. I
Isn't
think
that
at
the
one time.
Basilica?
I don't think so.
It's a Basilica.
I don't think so. Father Baker's like in Orchard Park.
I swear to God that there's the Basilica and like his remains are in there.
Maybe.
It's like this big fancy church. It's just like
His remains might be there,
Yeah.
but I don't think that it's the original Father Baker.
well, it's probably not the originals, but
Because like Father
I'm just
Baker was a
talking-
school, there was a church, there was an orphanage of nature, and like the nuns weren't
Later
so
on,
nice.
I gotta Google that. But
Yeah.
back to the story.
Sorry, we're going away off
The-
topic.
The dump that he worked at closed down, and the relative isolation of the road he lived on left the area in a state of ill repair. Potholes and erosion of the road surface, as well as a deterioration of the railroad bridges, made the road nearly impassable. Few ventured on the road, other than those at the very entrances off Route 5 or Harpan Road. In the early 70s, only 2 residences existed.
Yeah, it's always been pretty rocky over there.
One of which being William Derrick's house. So, because of how isolated it was, local teens frequently used the area for makeout spots and beer blasts, apparently.
Yep,
Humans are gonna human.
it's been a tradition for years apparently.
Easily accessible by car with many pull-offs. Those who ventured out front, blah blah blah, they would top up. Those who ventured off the lakefront taverns, bars, and clubs in the area would top off the evening by visiting Holland Road for a few hours of privacy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's like,
and then
one thing-
that's where like the rumors started.
Yeah, one thing about this area, if you go down a street like that, there's no street lights. Or there's one street light in the middle, and the street is like half a mile long or more. So it gets really dark out there, and it's very woodsy. So when there's no street lights, you're in an abandoned area, it's super dark,
Middle
late
of
at night,
nowhere.
it gets real spooky real
Mhm.
quick. So there's like coyotes and shit that go out there or whatever. Foxes, deer, bear, probably. I don't know. I don't go. Like, listen, even my mom's house at night, I don't like driving down our street around this time of year when it's super late at night because there's 3 street lights. One at the beginning, one at the middle, and one at the end. And it's so pitch black in between.
I mean, it's not that long off of the main road.
Yeah, her house is halfway down.
Yeah.
But when I'm walking, like, out of her front door to my car, which is, like, at the end of their driveway almost, it's so freaky. Because, like, the whole rest of her front yard is black.
Dang.
Yeah.
But apparently, no reports of any actual damage or life-threatening incidents were documented.
Mm-hmm.
And the local authorities suspected that William might have been trying to tell the teenagers to skedaddle, like coming up to their cars and stuff.
Yeah.
Police questioned him on numerous occasions but had no grounds to do anything other than ask him to contact the authorities and don't take things into your own hands, please.
You're
Things
gonna scare them.
Things escalated in 1972. 2 teens reported that they were pulled over in the area, lost reading a map, supposedly, when suddenly smoke and flames surrounded the vehicle. They immediately started the vehicle and pulled up out on the roadway and headed toward Route 5. Blocking the tunnel was a black Ford truck.
This is news to me. I'm so shocked.
Yeah.
Oh. I'm like, suspense, man.
This is called I Didn't Prepare.
She apparently did and did not.
The engine was revving, the headlights glared and vibrated as though loose. Flames shot from the exhaust sacs intermittently. We turned the car around and headed in the opposite direction as fast as we could. The truck followed until we passed the second bridge, which we went through without thought of any other vehicle following. When we reached the other side, the truck did not follow. We reached a crossing, turned left, and sped as fast as we could and went out of there. And apparently the police did not find the truck, but they did find scorching of grass and gravel on the road.
I'm wondering if maybe he poured like gas or something around their car.
No, it would have exploded.
Well,
But
how would the fire have started if their car was working just fine?
It says that the singeing that they found, like the scorching, looked to be the remnant of a campfire. The really old one.
I see it. Okay.
The police went to William's home. It was found to be dark. No one responded to knocks at the door. And then they just didn't follow up on it.
Fair.
And then I guess there was like a missing persons report or whatever. I'm trying to like get the important information, like skimming through.
When did he die?
That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Oh, there was a fire at his house. And it was on Halloween of 1973. He presumed to have not survived that.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Well, I mean, he had so much shit. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was probably like...
I'm gonna have to ask my stepdad. I think he was like 4 or 5 at that time. But I'm gonna, like, he's had older brothers, so I'm gonna have to ask him what he knows about it. So, I'm curious now.
Yeah, the house burned to its foundation. No bodies were ever found or recovered. The cause was not determined.
No bodies
But
recovered?
apparently the sightings... Well, the entire house burned down to its foundation.
Yeah, but you would find, if they went through, like, the ashes or whatever, you know, you'd be able to find remnants. Like, teeth don't burn, you know?
I don't know, man. All I know is he was a real guy. That was a little bizarre. He was very unfortunate. He was not actually a murderer. And I feel like I have to defend him.
Which is fine, you know, but a little bit odd, whatever, but it's like that hometown story that, like, you're prideful in believing, you know?
I don't really have one. There was, like... I grew up not far from a local mansion that was supposed to be haunted, but, like, I don't really know the story behind it other than, like, oh, they think maybe it might have been used as, like, part of the Underground Railroad.
There's a lot of houses around here, which...
Can be said about a lot of historical buildings around here.
Yeah.
So, it's not, like...
The last stop for Canada, basically.
Yeah, close to the border. So...
Off the river?
I didn't really have any, like, specific tales. So.
Yeah. That's, like, I guess the spookiest, like, hometown one that I have. But, yeah, there's also, like, this one cemetery that my friend used to live out in Farnham. It was, like...
Oh, I might have been reading about that. Continue. Let me see if I can find... if it's the same thing that I was thinking of.
It's in Farnham. There's like a church at the corner. So like you go down this one street off of Route 5, you go like over some train tracks and then under a bridge. And then I think it's like maybe a few streets after that. And then you turn left and there's more train tracks that you go over. And then there's like a church and a cemetery and you have to go like halfway down that street, which is pitch dark. And there's all woods after the cemetery on that street. And then you make like... There's this one little tiny street that you go across the train tracks again to get to her house. And there's like a little street that's got like 5 houses on it. And hers was like one of those 5 houses. But she hasn't lived there in a hot minute. But we walked down the road towards the cemetery at night one night. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm done. It was crazy.
Let me see if I can find...
Okay, I'm gonna pause and go pee then.
Yeah.
What were you looking for? Oh, the Farnham
cemetery. I can't find it, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. But yeah. So
I can't talk no more.
she's tapped out for the night. I'm also tapped out for the night.
I've reached my limit of being coherent for the day.
Hopefully this audio is good. We'll hope to have this edited in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. So
If not, I'll get a megaphone. And then maybe you'll hear me.
yeah, I kept trying to tell her to speak up, which I'll probably cut those parts, but I'll try to do some audio isolation, but if you need to turn your headphones up,
I
go
want to
for
edit
it.
this one.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, because this is like an
It's
hour
long,
and 20
I know,
minutes.
I know.
So,
Also, speaking about the way that I talk, not the other day, like a week or two ago, John and I were having a conversation about how I speak, and he said, yeah, you speak in sentences without spaces. And unfortunately, that was painfully true.
yeah, she doesn't really like enunciate things, so
Yeah.
you have to learn to take breaths, speak slowly.
My brain just wants to get the
Clearly.
information out.
Yeah, you can still do that. But anyway, we hope you enjoyed. More spooky things to come. So stay tuned for our next episode.
Peace out.
Alright, bye.